Hello and welcome to 365 Days Towards Racial Change. My name is Tomlin Nyback with day 189 coming up on the big 200. Just moving right along. A whole lot of material yet to get to for the rest of the year. And let's see if we can just keep that stamina going. I believe. And hopefully you lie somewhere, within the extremes. I believe some don't. Many don't, actually. Um, and that's what the subject will be today. I'm going to, we've talked about 7 points on Dr. Anderson's analysis of Black leadership, its needs, where it's positioned, its orientation, you know, in this particular space and time as we arrive, after talking about a whole lot of subjects about America, white institution, black institution, and things like that, history, economics, geographical concerns in the sense of land ownership, which I gotta think, what land do blacks own? That's starting to become a real serious issue as the year goes on. I have no idea what I'm going to look like at the end of this year because my mind continues to grasp ideas, things situated in this disadvantage of black folks. I say two extremes. The one extreme is saying, look, there's a problem out there existing. You know, even for a successful black person in the system, you know, are they successful on their own merit? Are they self-empowered, as Dr. Anderson would say, or are they self-determining their lives, as I would say? And then the other extreme is like, slavery's over, we're doing well, leave it alone. Let's not start marches and uh, putting boots on the ground and skin in the game. Again, we took a swing at it. This is where we land. This is the best we got. So that's the subject a little bit of today. But first, let's talk about why we're here, what we're going to do, and what's our goals ongoing. Um, Here, this is my own. This is kind of a reaction to my own experience in America, the insidious and subtle institutions out there that have been grating on me and my existence as an American citizen, yet being ignorant of them, not being taught, not being told. I will just keep falling into traps and having my learning experiences. That's unacceptable from all communities and myself. You know, that that I could spend so much time with a certain class of people and have the audacity to think that I'm really a part of what's going on there in that space. When I look back over my life, man, how many times that has not been true? Uh, how many times has that the betrayer in spirit just risen up and knocked the legs right out from under me? Fortunately, it came to a head where I became extremely skeptical, and fortunately, when the time was right, there's a saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I think that's what happened. Before I kind of went off the deep end and just threw up my hands, got a hold of Dr. Anderson's material and his videos here on YouTube and say, yeah, man, that's the problem. The problem is that the the seeds, that the foundation of this nation rest on disadvantaging. It's a continual disadvantage towards black people in the nation of America. You know, and it comes about. We have to engage in a certain etiquette for what we want. We have to work harder for our goals. Uh, we don't have um, a lot of historical support and affirmation that says that we're a part of this nation. Although we built it, we gave free labor, endured intense suffering and pains and things like that. You know, and that the nation of America, United States of America, is orientated that way. You know, that is what informs its relationship with the black population. And it's demonstrated, it's very overt, you know. It's demonstrated in the level of poverty, level of incarceration, level of continuing murders of black men. It's levels of discrimination. It's in the way, I'm been on this planet for decades now. It's how, I go to work. I feel it's a great company and all that, but logistically, and now that I'm understanding the black context of life in America, I've got guys 20, 30 years younger than me running the show. White men, white men. And wow, and I'm here later in life. Oh, I'm just getting it. I'm avoiding the pitfalls. I'm gathering the courage to follow my dream. You know, I've got a whole lot of life experience and wisdom that um, my white counterparts seem to have mastered and gotten a hold of a long time ago. Well, it's a nation created by European whites for, the intention is for European whites. This nation was created and it's administered by them. I wonder who's going to be favored in that dynamic. You feel me? All right. If I'm going to watch a ball game, let's say baseball, right? But I'm out there with a football throwing around and running back and forth. I'm not going to find myself succeeding in that venue very much because it's a baseball space, right? And I'm up there throwing a football and tackling pitchers and stuff. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. You know, I'm in denial of the venue, how the game is played. I got the wrong equipment. Oh, you're starting to feel me in this, you know, American arena in which we lie, and it's highly more evolved, sophisticated, and complicated than a simple baseball game. And I'm out there with a football. With that, so my concern is that the mind of everybody, blacks and whites, will just do the binary, uh, are properly assessing the truth about the experience in America. So I'm concerned about the black mind, having its source being informed as a nation of the black orientation in this space. What are the truths? How do we move and flow in the system to benefit us? Are blacks simply passive? Do we keep responding and reacting mentally to what's out there with us? Or do we put some thought in, and do we engage in some racial physics to get us airborne aloft in the system, and begin having consistent success for the majority of our group? We got plenty of outliers, some business people starting a young black boy. Spurgo, I think, is the clothing line. Plenty of entertainers, athletes always, and all that. But for the majority of the group, just for the common black person, how do we engage in some racial physics? Like the Wright brothers, uh, they engage in some physics, aerodynamics, lift, and things like that, and discovering on the way. And finally, we've got jets, and we can fly people back and forth around the world and out in space. You know, how how do how does that become the common experience, at least mentally, for Black people? Conversely, the white mind, it needs the white mind needs to be rattled and shaken as well, because they when the pressure gets too hot, when their overt racism and oppression becomes very apparent to the world, then they engage in um, a lot of debate and legislation and all this stuff. But they say, we're working on it. Patience, be patient. We're working on it. And so, yeah, well, they'll have civil rights language out there and stuff like that. But it's their minds have such an expectation of privilege and power. They move about in the system, rightfully so, because what is the American system? It's created by whites, for whites, administered by whites. You know, it nothing happens within the system that's going to threaten white folks being on top in power and control. You're never going to see that flipped around. Uh, Even in light of us having a black president, it didn't mean that black folks were suddenly economically powerful, determining international policy, um, determining economic direction. Like it wasn't like black people suddenly got elevated and white people were trickled down to a lower economic social status in America with our black president, right? I think the world may have felt that. We in America definitely knew that wasn't the case. The mind, the mind, you know. The second big burden is for financial literacy among black folks, knowing how the dollar works, how to put the dollar to work, how to make the dollar work hard enough so that it is more powerful in the future, because we're going to get old. We're going to slow down. Pains are going to linger. You can't be working. I can't even make videos at this pace at, you know, and those some of the years coming. I didn't think I'd live this long. I would have, my decisions in life didn't include longevity. I was just in the moment. but I could have used some wisdom about living longer in America. Would have made a lot of different choices. Um, had my longevity been a factor. White people do that. My white friends have, they start their retirements and long-term accounts, stuff like that, at an early age, so that when they're feeling this and seeing this, they're flying around the country at will and making decisions about their own life. They're self-empowered. They're self-determined, their lives, because the seeds are planted in them, especially financially. Not so, my experience, now how I grew up. I still don't have consistent financial discussions with my closest family members. Mm-mm. I tell you that they've really taken us for a ride, and that because of this, the skin color, I don't get it, which is amazing. I'm blind to how they blinded me, been wounded mortally, grievously in this system. Uh, and I guess it's going to take a full year to keep reminding me of such. Get some financial literacy. Start somewhere. Start saving $5 a day. I do it, and I do it. I missed a day of work last week, so it messed up my disposable income. So fortunately, I got a lot of good goodies and treats around my space. And I got plenty of music. I play guitar to keep me occupied. But no fluffing stuff this week. Try $5 a day. That will begin your financial literacy. Dr. Anderson informs me, thank God for this man. August 10th is coming up, his Heritage Festival. I got to get working on that. I'm coming into a very busy time. But a Black History Reader, 101 questions you never thought to ask. We got to get back to that. Well, everything, he's got so much great stuff. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Powernomics, Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America. And you can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You'll find Black women supporting each other, engaging one another there. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, on the internet there. Just Google it, and it's kind of a Black Facebook experience, Black community. There's plenty, right? It's not the only one. If you can't find your flavor, and I'm not a big online guy. I don't have a smart device. This is on the computer at home. So you don't see me out in public walking with my head down into my device, tapping into my device. I don't like that. That's a distraction. I think that's another tool of the system to keep us distracted. Even as powerful it is, as connected as we can be, we got to get real. We got to put down some roots. One of my other issues and concerns is for Black ownership of land. Talked yesterday about how much land and life has been taken from us. So I'm not a big internet guy. Now, on that note, if you still feel a need to express yourself, find community and all that, do what I did. Start your own. I got a little private email list, handful of people. I think they watch it. I know my mom does. Thank you, Mom. But she doesn't watch the videos because she can't afford to keep the data and stuff like that. So I always know the description is roughly follows the video, and the fifth video roughly follows the description. And like that. If you want to be on my private email list, let's connect somehow. And you can be on that. You don't get any different content. I don't have a newsletter. This is the newsletter and whatnot. But I like this little community that's going so far. A little grassroots doesn't hurt. That's where a lot of things start. Uh, Now, if you can't find your own, do what I did, start your own. Okay. And finally, very important book. We need a revival around this work right here. I bet you we could light a whole lot of fires, get a whole lot more motivation if we could get more people, everybody, to read this book, Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Look at fictional life. A slave named Tom and other slave masters. We got murders, um, sexual misconduct, all this stuff right there in the mid 1800s. Free labor, stolen land, institution justifying itself in the way it exploits and abuses people of society. We've got exclusion in there. A lot of good stuff. Heavy book. All right, now we finished Dr. Anderson's 7 points of analysis, not exhaustive in any way. I bet you if we talk to him today about those points without being conscious of it, I'm sure he'd bring up some other aspects of the analysis. I added two of my own in the leadership analysis. He's focused on the leader, so to speak, but the leader, you can't be a leader of yourself. I mean, you're a leader of yourself, I guess, in some aspects and respects. He's talking about of communities. So you're not a community of one, right? Your community is at least two, right? Three helps. Three will give you a fighting chance to have a community. So the next 2 points today and tomorrow are about the people in the leadership equation. I think that he could have given that some attention. He wants the people to hold the leaders to a certain standard. Well, the people in the group have to be of a certain caliber as well. First point is we got to look at denial, and these last few minutes, like we only need the last 5-6 minutes to talk about this because people aren't on the fence, I think, about being victims of racism or thriving within the American system as a black person, things like that. We feel that we're either one or the other. Nobody's on the fence. We're either experiencing great movement in the system, a lot of successes, nothing to complain about. We generate the resources to compete out there in the world, or we're getting beat down and knocked around when we try to become and evolve and rise within certain spaces within the American system, especially at work or especially in social circles. You'll see, and you'll know. And this is something that took me decades to see. Now I can articulate it much better. Is that at what's is there pushback as I rise up as a potential person of influence, power, control in these spaces? Or am I just dismissed? Are my ideas stolen? Um, are there very overt and explicit standards applied to me and not to other people of the group? do those differences go right along color lines? You know, that's going to be a lot of the conversation, that the calculus that I employ to gauge where I am at in various spaces. You know, maybe you're doing well, and but is it a result? Excuse me. Is it a result of you having some alphabet soup after your name or before your name? Do you have to work harder than your contemporaries uh, to get the same result? Or are you working harder without the result? That's today's conversation. Uh, this is black denial on whatever level. I got blacks point at me saying that this project is superfluous, unacceptable, not needed. You got blacks like me saying we still got racism on steroids in America. That's the occasional feedback I get. I was with a black person, and this individual had great experiences, had learning experiences as a youth. They were uh, they came along the road that I wish myself and more blacks came along, so that we could enjoy the system, move within the system, and uh, and trust the system and not have PTSD about living in America. I didn't devalue this individual's experience. I validated, like, yeah, when these certain criteria are met, it's going to produce a fruitful experience. Yeah, not taking that away. So their outlook, orientation in American space is favorable, good. And there's a lot of uh, how can I say, this individual feels they are part of the mosaic of the American landscape socially. Uh, but I'm going to say, black folks, look at the majority of the black experience. That's not the norm, what this individual has. It's valid. I can't argue with their experience, but it's not the norm for the majority of the group. There here is another outlier. Denial is going to make us lethargic for change. Look, you're either going to be so beat down that you just given up on the system, or you're doing well, like the individual I talked with, and you're not going to engage the system. Either the mountain's too high, or you're already at the mountaintop, and the people down there just need to get it together, so to speak. Uh, you got to have some hunger for understanding. The leader is going to want a group that's hungry, that's wants to hear this word on some change and these levels. And it's going to be very important for this group led by black leadership. It's going to be important for that group to want to understand. Um, and the group can't be complacent. We got a long way to go, a lot of ground to make up, in my estimation. And it's going to take a lot of energy, consistent energy, to stay, uh, to keep the momentum going, depending on how far we get. I would say, barring some of the violent backlash, if you day 188, and let that discussion Fred Hampton, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Atlanta, Rosewood. You know, the list goes on, barring violent pushback from the system. You know, we can move on and be um, very successful. Got to keep the momentum going. And, you know, it's not impossible to overcome the system, be a majority, be in control financially and all that. You got to massage the system for a couple hundred years, couple centuries, but it is possible. And blacks don't holler back. Blacks need to holler back. This is a holler back. Hopefully you're black and you're watching this, and even if you're not, even if you don't agree, at least you're seeing different points of view. You know, on that note of centuries for change, let me end with this. I'm over time. I like science fiction. There's a book called Dune, and about this desert planet, but the inhabitants want to make it uh, lush and green, right? But there's a specific way, and that it's a planetary ecologist, just a scientist of planets, comes and says, yes, it is possible. You know, we got to conserve water, get our plants, and do stuff and really care for this space over time. And they're like, okay, well, how long is that going to take? He said his number is astronomical. Oh, this is 375 years. I'm just throwing that off my. It's a couple centuries to get the planet green, but he says it is possible. And the people he's talking to are the indigenous inhabitants of this planet, and they say, yeah, let's do it. And what's that mean? It means that the people he's talking to, including himself, ain't going to be around to see no green planet. They, these are you got to. It's about making a commitment of laying a foundation, maintaining that foundation, and over time, hundreds of years, you see the fruit of your work and your labor. And generations have passed on in the process. Generations that have sacrificed and all that. I don't want to get off in a tangent. I'm way over. Listen. So that's my point 8. Tomorrow I'm going to have another point to add to Dr. Anderson's analysis. I hope he doesn't mind me taking that liberty. Day 189 out of the way, 365 days towards racial change. I'm Tomlin Snyback. Please come and fellowship with us tomorrow. Bye-bye.